Chapter 3642. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han smiled. When you wanted to kill me, you didn't care who I was. Now that I'm killing you, you don't need to know who I am. Humph, if we weren't here, I could crush you with one hand, He-san said through gritted teeth. Ha 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 ha. Ling Han laughed, his face full of disdain. I am the descendant of a great emperor. I have countless secret treasures on me. If I really want to fight in the outside world, I can take out my ancestral artifact and slaughter even a saint. F***ck, wasn't it just bragging? He didn't know how He-san's entire body shook. A descendant of the arch with an ancestral artifact? What kind of terrifying existence was that? Other than the ancestral king, the sages were invincible, but in the face of an emperor weapon or an ancestral artifact, they could only bow their heads. This young man is actually a descendant of the ancestral king, no wonder he's so monstrous. Ling Han burst into laughter again and shook his head. I'm just joking with you. I'm destined to be the emperor. Why would I need to rely on the blessings of the ancestors? He-san couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. How dare you say that? Although it was said that martial artists who didn't want to become ancestral kings weren't good martial artists, everyone knew their own limits. Even geniuses like He-san knew that the limit of their achievements in this life was likely to be at the cult master level. To become a venerable. Unless he had a heaven-defying opportunity and obtained a heaven-defying fortune, why was there only one venerable one on the Moonlight planet after so many years? Therefore, there were even fewer saints. Any saint could sweep through the universe. If the great emperor didn't come out, who could compete with them? However, for Ling Han to confidently say that he wanted to become an emperor, wasn't this a great joke? Even if you were 10 times more talented, you would only have a 1 in 10,000 chance of becoming a martial sage, not to mention becoming a martial emperor. What a joke, he said coldly. Whether or not it's a joke, you'll know in the future. But you won't be able to see that day. Ling Han attacked once more, punching out with an ordinary fist that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. He-san fought back, but every time he received a blow, he would vomit blood. He was no match for Ling Han. Ling Han is invincible in the battle of the same level. He-san had to unleash his blue energy to be able to match it, but it consumed too much of his energy. After a few attacks, he was already out of breath. Ling Han had also lost his patience. Originally, He-san could be his whetstone, but now that he had entered the secret-seeking realm, his once powerful opponent was so vulnerable that it was not enough for him to go all out. To kill, he circulated the destructive energy and wrapped it around his fists as he faced He-san's blue energy head-on. This was a confrontation between two high-level energies. Boom, the fist and the sword collided, and He-san was sent flying. The blue energy instantly shattered, and the destructive energy wreaked havoc. Although they were both high-level energies, there was a qualitative difference. It could only be said that they were of a higher level than mystical powers, but there were also rankings among high-level energies. Hong, under the assault of the destructive energy, He-san instantly disappeared. So clean. Ling Han was shocked. With He-san's strength, he shouldn't have been able to completely obliterate him with a single blow. Ling Han looked at the sky. There were 2 pieces of paper talismans falling down. Even the destructive energy did not destroy them. Instead, it looked like they had been burned by themselves. Death Substitute Talisman, 10,000 Miles Escape Talisman. He summoned Tang Yun-er, and the little girl immediately cried out when she saw the 2 pieces of paper talismans. Hearing the name, Ling Han understood. Not only did He-san not die, but he had also escaped. The Death Substitute Talisman had saved He-san from being killed by the destructive energy, and the 10,000 Miles Escape Talisman had instantly sent him tens of thousands of miles away. Sigh, there were so many benefits to having a strong martial artist standing behind him. Just now, he had the talisman soldier to block the fatal attack. Ling Han felt a little regretful. This was supposed to be a fat sheep. If he could capture him, he would definitely be able to make a fortune. Handsome big brother, you finally beat that guy, the little girl asked. Ling Han smiled and nodded. I won. Then we can finally leave this damn place, right? The little girl's mouth was crooked. What had they been eating these past few months? She could not stand it. Ling Han arrived at the agreed place. 2 days later, the 7 children and Shen Hanyun arrived. Everyone gathered the essence of the earth together. Not only did they fuse together a portion of the earth crystal yuan, but they also had a surplus, enough to make up for half a portion of the earth crystal yuan. Unfortunately, everyone wanted to vomit here, so they naturally had no interest in fighting anymore, except for Shen Hanyun. He said that he had nothing to do anyway, so he wanted to continue killing monsters with the remaining earth essence until he could gather another portion of the earth crystal yuan. Ling Han knew that this guy wanted to find something to do. Otherwise, he would lose his life goal, and he would only be left at a loss. He patted Shen Hanyun's shoulder and left. After leaving the Rolling Stones wasteland, the little girl summoned the flying shuttle, and the 2 of them boarded it. Xiao, they immediately flew into the sky. Farewell for now, Moonlight Star. Ling Han looked back, and he said in his heart that it would not be long before he returned to this place. At that time, he would settle the score with the Pang and Shu families, and if he encountered He-san, he did not mind stepping on him. Xiao, the flying shuttle was extremely fast, and soon, it entered the starry sky and began to travel through the space nodes. Once, twice, thrice, after about 2 months, they finally returned to Heavenly Sea Star. It had been more than a year since they last saw each other. Be careful, don't bump into anyone again, Ling Han warned in advance. This little girl was completely a spoiler. I know. The little girl nodded, but looking at her fanatical expression, it was clear that she was just perfunctory with Ling Han. Sure enough, she controlled the flying shuttle to descend, aiming directly at a sect. Hong, after crashing into a mountain peak, this mountain peak was forcibly disintegrated. Countless crushed rocks fell, dust and sand filled the sky, enveloping an area of several dozen li. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ling Han hurriedly grabbed the little girl and ran away. Fortunately, this sect did not pledge allegiance to Xianbei country, so it would be a lesson for them. After spending another 3 days, Ling Han finally returned to the imperial capital. Yo, I haven't seen you for more than a year, and you've become more beautiful. Ling Han entered the External Affairs Department, and after seeing Princess Bai Xiao, he could not help but say with a smile. If there was any change in the External Affairs Department, it would be that it was much more deserted. Not to say that it was completely deserted, but in fact, it was not much better. Now that the forces that should have surrendered had surrendered, the External Affairs Department naturally existed in name only. Princess Bai Xiao was indeed more radiant and elegant, but it was not that her appearance had changed, but as she walked further on the path of immortality, her temperament naturally became more ethereal and lively. Seeing her, everyone's first reaction was that she was a fairy descending to the mortal world. Princess Bai Xiao couldn't help but be speechless. Now, only Ling Han still dared to flirt with her like this, but the key was that this guy didn't have the slightest bit of crooked thoughts, and was completely teasing her, making her unable to get angry even if she wanted to. You're back. Now the situation in the imperial capital has changed greatly, she said. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3644. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. Although martial art had recovered and modern technology could no longer compete with warriors, some things were still very practical. For example, cars. Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao sat in a long limousine. It was very cool, but it was too slow. It took them more than 40 minutes to finally reach the vicinity of the palace. Originally, this was a forbidden area, and the driver could not go any further. But this time, Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao had invitations, so they let the driver continue. At the entrance of the palace, they were stopped. After carefully checking their invitations, they were allowed to pass. The driver was extremely excited. Naturally, he could not enter the palace, but not only did he enter, but he also drove in. It made him feel like he was in a dream. Soon, the car arrived at Johua Palace. The driver refused to accept the money. Sirs, it's all thanks to you that I have the chance to enter the palace and realize my lifelong dream. How can I accept your money? With that, Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao no longer insisted and got out of the car. It was not yet time for the banquet, but there was already a sea of people here. Obviously, this time, the Empress and imperial concubines had invited many people, but the External Affairs Hall only had 2 invitations. That was because the princes and the External Affairs Hall did not have a good relationship, so they only gave 2 invitations. It seemed that all the clans in the imperial capital had been invited, but many people were not qualified to enter the palace, so they could only join in the fun outside. But for these people, being able to enter the palace was already glorious. Not only were there clans in the imperial capital, but there were also sects that had submitted to Shenbei country. Who would dare to ignore an invitation from the Empress? This was the wife of a spirit transformation perfected lord, so they had to give her face no matter what. Therefore, today was really a day of stars surrounding the moon. Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao were very low-key and did not greet anyone. However, Princess Bai Xiao was too beautiful. Once she got out of the car, she became the focus of everyone's attention. Pairs of eyes stared at her without blinking. Even now, the number of newly advanced immortal path powerhouses was extremely limited. As for women, there was only Princess Bai Xiao. Even if she was not attractive, she would still receive a lot of attention, not to mention her otherworldly beauty. The 2 of them couldn't keep a low profile even if they wanted to. The crowd was discussing fervently. The news of the arrival of the 2 manor heads of the Department of External Affairs spread like wildfire. Ling Han didn't mind. If they knew, then so be it. If they were afraid of trouble, he wouldn't have come. After entering the hall, the 2 of them found their positions. However, the infuriating thing was that not only were their positions not next to each other, but Ling Han was also far behind Princess Bai Xiao. Is that against the rules? Ling Han touched his chin and said, "You're the princess that His Majesty personally conferred, so it's reasonable to put you in front." Princess Bai Xiao frowned. "This is obviously a show of strength to embarrass you. You're just going to endure it." This was not in line with Ling Han's personality. Ling Han smiled. "Look at what you're saying. Am I the kind of person who would haggle over every ounce and seek revenge for the smallest grievance?" Princess Bai Xiao did not say anything, but her eyes were filled with certainty. "It's fine. Believe me, I've been cultivating recently. As long as others don't step on my head, I won't bother about it." Ling Han smiled. Princess Bai Xiao did not believe it, but she did not say anything and went to the front. She was extremely beautiful. Now that she had entered the immortal path, her temperament was ethereal and moving. Naturally, she was immediately surrounded by the stars. All the princes surrounded her and tried to curry favor with her. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that she was the first person to enter the immortal path after the world recovered made her worthy of marrying. Not only the princes, but the guests were also very interested in Princess Bai Xiao. They were not afraid of the princes at all and also came up to curry favor with her. At 7 o'clock, the sky was completely dark, and the guests had all arrived. Empress Ma and the imperial concubines came out one after another, and the entire hall was silent. Although their strength was sparse and ordinary, they were the wives and concubines of perfected Lord Spirit Transformation, so they naturally had to be respected. After a few words from the ladies, the banquet began. Ling Han just ate silently. He did not want to lower himself to the level of these women. Speaking of which, they were all his juniors, so he was too embarrassed to argue with them. Of course, the prerequisite was that they did not provoke him. With Chen Fengyan's prestige, the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Everyone complimented the eldest prince and the others, saying that they were dragons and phoenixes among men, and that their future achievements would not lose to Chen Fengyan's. Blah, blah, blah. Ling Han wanted to sleep listening to them. In his opinion, other than the eldest prince who had some potential, the other princes were all mediocre. At most, they would advance to the cauldron casting realm. Bai Xiao. Empress Ma suddenly changed the topic to Princess Bai Xiao. "You've been in the imperial capital for 2 years, right?" "Yes." Princess Bai Xiao said gently, although she could kill the lady sitting on the main seat with a wave of her hand. Empress Ma nodded and continued, "So much time has passed. Have you thought clearly about which prince you want to marry?" This was a forced marriage. When the demon princess entered the imperial capital, she came with the mission of marriage. She wanted to marry one of the princes, but it was up to her to decide which one to marry. Now, Empress Ma was forcing Princess Bai Xiao to make a choice. Everyone was paying close attention, and the eldest imperial prince and the others all wore proud expressions. There were even a few who looked at Ling Han provocatively. "Why do you think you're sitting here? I want you to see this scene with your own eyes." No matter what choice Princess Bai Xiao made, it was like keeping the goodies within the family. She was going to marry a prince, and Ling Han had no fate with her. Ling Han did not say anything. He wanted to see how Princess Bai Xiao would choose. At most, he would use his identity as Chen Fengyan's uncle and slap them all. Princess Bai Xiao smiled and said, "Bai Xiao is focusing on cultivation now. Your Highnesses, after entering the immortal path, your lifespans are at least 1,000 years, so there is no need to be anxious." "How can this be?" Empress Ma shook her head. "As the saying goes, only when you have a family can you be at ease. Bai Xiao, do you think that no prince is worthy of you?" Her words were very harsh. "Empress Ma, you're going too far." A young man suddenly stood up. "I think Lady Bai Xiao is right. As cultivators, we should put aside our personal feelings and pursue the supreme Tao." His name was Zhu Sen, and he was a foundation establishment expert. His grandfather was also a spirit transformation perfected lord, so he did not need to be afraid of Empress Ma. "Yes." Another young man stood up with a wine glass in his hand, looking extremely casual. "Moreover, marriage depends on the wishes of both parties. What's the point of forcing them to be together?" His name was Zhu Yang, and he was also a guest from outer space. His background was not inferior to Zhu Sen's. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3645. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC Empress Ma's expression was a bit ugly. She had used this banquet to force Princess Bai Xiao to make a stand, but she didn't expect the two extraterrestrial visitors to intervene. "What does it have to do with you?" She knew that Zhu Sen and Zhu Yang must have taken a fancy to Princess Bai Xiao, which was why they were speaking up for justice. But she couldn't do anything about it. Their background was no weaker than hers. What could she use to suppress them? Moreover, the situation on Heavenly Ocean was very delicate. Although Chen Fengyang could withstand the pressure of the other 4 perfected cultivators, what about a few more? Therefore, Empress Ma didn't dare to be stubborn and make another strong enemy for Chen Fengyang. She was so flustered that she couldn't speak at all. Seeing this, Imperial concubine Liu quickly said, "Okay, let's talk about Bai Xiao later. Today is a joyous day for the princes. Come, let's drink." Congratulations to the princes for crossing the immortal gate and becoming a foundation establishment cultivator. Embark on the immortal path and pursue the great path. This is the fortune of our dynasty. Everyone was flattering them, but the extraterrestrial visitors were disdainful. What a group of uncivilized people. Was it worth being so excited about crossing the immortal path? Wasn't it a matter of course to become a foundation establishment cultivator on their planet? With the background of a spirit transformation cultivator, it would be strange if they couldn't embark on the immortal path. It couldn't be helped. This planet had just recovered, and it was normal for martial art to wither. If the cage hadn't been opened in advance, these extraterrestrial visitors would have been invincible. The eldest prince and the others were all glowing. Today was the beginning of their lives. The immortal path was a height that they could only look up to in the past. Now that they had set foot on it, they would reach the peak in the future. With a perfected cultivator father to protect them, their future was limitless. "I'm Zhu Yang, and I've just reached the Heaven Foundation realm. However, I'm willing to seal my cultivation to the mortal foundation realm and ask for advice from the princes." At this moment, a discordant voice was heard. The extraterrestrial visitor Zhu Yang stood up again and provoked the eldest prince. To accept or not to accept? He had to accept the challenge. The other party had already named him by name and said that he would seal his cultivation. If he still did not dare to accept the challenge, where would the face of the royal family be? Empress Ma, Imperial concubine Liu, and the others looked gloomy. These extraterrestrial visitors really didn't give them any face. Just now, they spoke up for Princess Bai Xiao, and now they challenged Prince Julane. However, the other party's background was very strong and Shenbei country could not afford to make another strong enemy, so they could not afford to offend him. Taking a step back, even if they wanted to suppress it, there was nothing they could do. Zhu Yang was a foundation establishment expert, but how many experts did the royal family have? Were they going to let the sects that had pledged allegiance to them take action? That would be hilarious. The royal family was too weak. Therefore, after the princes looked at each other, the 13th prince stepped out first and said, "Then let me experience it." Zhu Yang sneered, "Please." The 13th prince was suppressed in just 10 moves. "Young Master Zhu, what's the point of using cultivation to suppress people?" an official said. He had received Empress Ma's permission. Otherwise, how could a small engravement realm cultivator like him dare to challenge a foundation establishment cultivator? Zhu Yang did not say anything and only slapped at the 10th prince. Boom! A terrifying power surged. The 10th prince could not resist it at all and was instantly sent flying. This was the answer. Look, if I show my foundation establishment strength, I'll be this strong. Moreover, he was using the 10th prince to show his true battle prowess. What kind of contempt was this? So what if it was the royal family? He did not fear them at all. They were not Chen Fengyang. Everyone was speechless. Zhu Yang did not use cultivation to win against the 13th prince. It was just that his battle prowess was too strong. Let this king experience for a bit. The 9th prince walked out. His figure was shockingly tall and sturdy, as if he was a violent bear. "Make your move," Zhu Yang said indifferently. The 9th prince made his move, but he was defeated in just 10 moves. 2 consecutive defeats. The 7th prince also stood out and said, "Brother Zhu's strength is truly extraordinary. Let me experience it for a bit." He was proficient in telekinesis. After stepping onto the path of immortality, it had been completely developed. He was confident that he would not lose to the 1st prince, who had an innate divine physique. The 7th prince attacked with a thought. Swish, swish, swish. Countless short swords flew out from his body, filling the sky as they shot towards Zhu Yang. What powerful telekinesis! Zhu Yang revealed a serious expression. The attacks of telekinesis cultivators were strange and could be launched from any angle. It was impossible to defend against. However, he was not afraid. How strong could someone from a backward land of martial art be? The 7th prince wasn't too bad. At one point, he was evenly matched with Zhu Yang. But just as everyone was cheering for him, thinking that he would be able to save face for Shenbei country, Zhu Yang suddenly exploded and defeated the 7th prince in 2 or 3 moves. Ling Han could see clearly that the 7th prince had lost because he did not have a good telekinesis artifact. If the 7th prince had the heavenly pattern jade, Zhu Yang would have a headache 100 times over. But with the 7th prince's defeat, the other princes, with the exception of the 1st prince, gave up on the idea of attacking. They had fought amongst themselves, and the 7th prince's battle prowess was second only to the 1st prince. In an instant, everyone's gazes were focused on the 1st prince. The 1st prince had no choice but to act. The dignity of the royal family and Shenbei country rested on his shoulders. He had to defend this pass. But he had no confidence at all. His opponent was so strong that even an innate divine physique like him had no chance of winning. As the two fought, the 1st prince quickly went all out and even used his innate mystique. Countless rays of green light rained down from the sky. "Hey, that's a mystique." Zhu Yang was knowledgeable. "I didn't expect you to have an innate divine physique." Innate divine physiques were too rare, at least not for him. Even if the 1st prince was only a 9th grade innate divine physique, he was still extremely powerful. The moment he used his mystique, he immediately gained the upper hand. Everyone cheered loudly, finally regaining their momentum. But the foreign guests were extremely calm. Innate divine physiques were indeed powerful, but after stepping onto the path of immortality, those who used divine stones as their foundation were not weak. Some of the top-grade divine stones could even match up to second-grade divine physiques. As expected, Zhu Yang quickly began to counterattack. He used a powerful immortal art and blocked the 1st prince's mystique. Although the mystique was powerful, it could not be used indefinitely. It was a huge burden on the body and could only be used as an ultimate move. Thus, once the eldest prince's explosive period was over, he immediately fell into a predicament where he could not make ends meet and was quickly defeated. At this point, the first prince's army was completely annihilated. Ju Yang revealed a proud expression. "Is there any other prince who wants to challenge me?" Everyone was speechless. Their skills were inferior, so it would only be more embarrassing to say such words. Ha ha ha. The foreign guests laughed disdainfully. The primitive lands were so weak that they could not even withstand a single blow. The officials of Xianbei country felt their faces burning. They could not bear to be slapped in the face in their own court. But there was nothing they could do. Who asked the princes to be weaker than them? Was there anyone who could stand up and beat these fellows up? Could it be that in such a huge planet, in such a huge country, there was not a single true genius? Unfortunately, Hong Tianbiyu had betrayed them. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to turn the tide. Battle of the same level. Amidst the silence, a lazy voice rang out. "Let me teach you a lesson. Phone reading is more refreshing." Chapter 3646. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC and then someone else jumps out. Everyone turned to look at the source of the sound, and they were all stunned. So it was this guy. The imperial capital's pride, other than Hong Tianbiyu, there was also Ling Han. Faced with so many pairs of eyes, Ling Han was still eating slowly, as if the bold words just now didn't come from his mouth. Ju Yang sneered, "A puny arcana seeking realm dares to challenge me?" Ling Han was not moved. He said lightly, "Come, suppress your cultivation to the secret-seeking realm. I will defeat you within 10 moves. One more move and I will make an exception to take you as my godson." F***CK, why is this guy so mean? Ju Yang was enraged. "Ant, do you want to die? Do you dare or not? Just say it," Ling Han goaded him. "I wouldn't dare." Ju Yang shook his head. "It's just disdain." Ling Han thought for a moment, then took out the heavenly rune jade and shook it. "I'll use this as a wager. Whoever can defeat me in a battle of the same level can take this away." Psychokinesis Dharma artifact. Heavenly rune jade. Ju Yang, Zhu Sen, and the others exclaimed in surprise, revealing looks of envy. Of course, they knew what it was. Telekinesis artifacts were extremely rare, so even though it was only a 2-star material, it was still enough to tempt them. Even Life Core Realm warriors would treat it as a treasure. "I'll do it. I'll fight you." "No, let me do it." Ju Yang and the others shouted anxiously. They all wanted to fight with Ling Han. How could there be a genius in a backward place like Heavenly Starry Sky? Therefore, whoever made the first move would be able to obtain the heavenly rune jade. Ling Han grinned, "If you want to challenge me, it's simple. Take out a treasure of equal value." "Wait, when did it become a challenge? Didn't you jump out on your own?" However, the heavenly rune jade was too precious, so they couldn't be bothered with it. "I have a 300-year-old yellow ginseng here. It can replenish your qi and blood. It can save your life." Ju Yang was the first to speak. He took out a ginseng and placed it on the table. "All right, let's fight." Ling Han nodded. Ju Yang walked over, suppressing his cultivation as he walked. The aura of the immortal path immediately disappeared. Right now, he was only searching for the secret realm. Ling Han stood with his hands behind his back. "Those who want to challenge me, line up. You must take out something good. If you don't have something good, I won't accept the challenge." "Damn, you're too arrogant. You think you've beaten Ju Yang before the fight even starts." As the person in question, Ju Yang was naturally the most furious. In this primitive land, there was actually someone who dared to look down on him like this. He snorted, "You really don't know what you're talking about." Ju Yang took a step forward, dashing towards Ling Han. He was already impatient. He wanted to defeat Ling Han so that he wouldn't be annoyed. "Facts trump all. I'll let you have 10 moves." Ling Han casually parried, only defending and not attacking. Ju Yang didn't know Ling Han's strength, so he assumed that Ling Han didn't even have the strength to fight back. He snorted and increased the intensity of his attacks. Ling Han only exchanged a few moves and was sure that Zhu Yang was a one-star genius. But now that he had suppressed his cultivation to the secret realm, his battle strength was close to 2 stars. He was extraordinary. No wonder he could sweep away the Crown Prince. Even the Crown Prince with his innate divine body wasn't his match. One-star geniuses were indeed strong. Coupled with the profound immortal techniques, even the Crown Prince couldn't beat him. Seeing that Ling Han only defended and didn't attack, everyone felt that it was normal. Zhu Yang was an alien. Didn't he see that even the Crown Prince and the others were defeated? It wasn't strange that Ling Han couldn't beat him. But didn't it hurt that he was so high profile just now and now he was slapped in the face? This was also a disgrace to Xianbei country. If Ling Han unleashed his might, then he would be able to insta-kill Zhu Yang with a single strike. However, if that was the case, who would still be willing to bet with him? There was no profit to be made. Therefore, Ling Han was casting a long line to catch a big fish. If the 7 kids were here, with their understanding of Ling Han, they would have known that Ling Han was cheating again. After a few hundred moves, Ling Han finally showed his strength and defeated Zhu Yang with a slight advantage. Thanks. Ling Han walked over and picked up the 300-year-old yellow ginseng. Then, with an arrogant look, he said, "Is there anyone else who can beat this alien who can't even withstand a single blow?" Hearing this, Zhu Sen and the others were furious. This kid was too arrogant. He only beat Zhu Yang by 1 move. It was all luck. What was there to be proud of? Everyone, make way. I'll take care of this kid. A man in green walked out. He took out a piece of green metal and put it on the table. This is a 1-star material, misery green gold. Is it enough? Of course, a 1-star material couldn't be compared to a 2-star material. Moreover, the heavenly rune jade was a telekinesis instrument. It was far more precious than ordinary 2-star materials. Ling Han didn't care. He just wanted to make some extra money. It's not enough, but it doesn't matter. You're going to lose anyway, Ling Han said provocatively. You're really arrogant. The man in green rushed over and launched a fierce attack. Ling Han was still the same. He didn't win with a single blow. Instead, he fought with his opponent, giving others the illusion that the 2 of them were about the same level. After a few hundred moves, Ling Han finally strengthened his attack and defeated the man in green. 2 consecutive victories. This time, everyone looked at Ling Han in a new light. In the first battle, Ling Han was just lucky. His 2 consecutive victories were enough to prove it. This wasn't luck. Ling Han put away the misery green gold. "Sigh, can't you send a decent opponent?" "Sigh, none of them are enough for me. This was too arrogant, too crazy. You're just a small pawn from a backwater land. How dare you talk so big?" Another alien stood out and put down a pill. This is the 3 transformations pill, a quasi 1-star pill. It can promote the evolution of one's vitality. It'll be very beneficial to you. Ling Han couldn't help but be disappointed. Although the 3 transformations pill's effects were exactly what he needed, he'd already taken the 5 elements fortune pill. There was no point in taking another pill with similar effects. Otherwise, wouldn't it be better to refine 2 5 elements fortune pills? Forget it, if he didn't use it himself, he could give it to others. I'll just force myself. Ling Han waved his hand. Damn, you're even looking down on me. Let's fight. The battle began. Ling Han used the same old rules, dragging out the opponent for 300 moves before defeating him. 3 consecutive victories. Ling Han became more and more arrogant. Attracting hatred was too easy for him. All he had to do was act as himself. One after another, the alien guests jumped out. They couldn't take this provocation. It was too infuriating. One went up, one died. Not a single person could defeat Ling Han. 9 battles, 9 victories. This time, the alien guests were all dumbfounded. 9 battles, 9 victories. Although they were all won with great difficulty, it was enough to prove the problem. Ling Han was very, very strong. Although he was very arrogant, making people gnash their teeth in hatred. Is there anyone else? Ling Han asked with a smile. He swept his gaze around, but no one answered him. Right now, everyone had to consider whether they were stronger than the previous 9 people. Otherwise, if they went up, they would only be giving up a defeat, and would only be humiliating themselves. I'll go. After a long time, Zhu Sen walked out. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3648. A Beautiful Romance. BQG 6. CC. After the silhouette finished speaking, its body turned into fragments of light and disappeared. What was this Chen Fengyang busy with all day? Why did he always send out his clones and thoughts? It was almost impossible to see his real body. Could it be that he was trying to break through to the 4 extremities and become a sect master level cultivator? That was possible. That was why he was very patient now. As long as he became a sect master level cultivator, how could the likes of the primordial true sovereign be his match? The impending conflict was resolved, but the atmosphere could not return to how it was before. The extraterrestrial visitors all had ugly expressions. They were actually suppressed by a secret realm cultivator, which made them feel suffocated. But in a battle of the same level, they really were not his match. Humph, what's the point of being invincible in the secret realm? Yes, during the Spring Immortals Gate, how many geniuses died? I can only show off now. When I step onto the path of immortality, I'll fight at the same level and kill them as easily as turning my palm. Foundation establishment is the starting point of cultivation. It's meaningless compared to the mortal realm. Not long after, these extraterrestrial visitors all started to get high and belittle Ling Han without a care for the facts. This was very infuriating. They were obviously no match for him in a battle of the same level, but they still wanted to ridicule him. Ling Han did not say anything. He only took out the treasures he had just won and placed them on the table one by one. Immediately, the extraterrestrial visitors were speechless. These bets were their humiliation and also Ling Han's battle achievements. What else could they say? The banquet continued, but everyone lost interest. The guests from beyond the stars all hoped that the banquet would end quickly so that they could leave. Meanwhile, the officials of Black North Country were discussing fervently about Ling Han. As expected, His Imperial Majesty still thought highly of this young genius. Should he find a chance to shove a married woman from his clan into the Ministry of External Affairs? The main characters of this banquet were clearly the eldest prince and the others, but now everyone was thinking about Ling Han. It was just that different people had different feelings. Seeing this, Empress Ma also felt that there was no point in continuing the banquet. She stood up and was about to announce the end of the banquet. But at this moment, boom, a shooting star suddenly streaked across the sky. It looked so familiar. Not good, it was Tang Yun, that little lowly, who drove the shuttle over again. Just as Ling Han was about to use so close, yet worlds apart to leave, he discovered that the meteor had actually come to a sudden stop in midair. It was no more than 100 feet above their heads. It wasn't Tang Yun. Ling Han said in his heart. Firstly, the little lowly didn't have such good skills. Secondly, the appearance of the shuttle was also different. Very good. With so many people here, it will save me a lot of time. A voice came from the flying shuttle. I'm the envoy of the Golden Origin Holy Land. I'm here for the Golden Origin Fruit Festival that will be held in a year. Gold Origin Holy Land. Metal Essence Fruit Gathering. All of a sudden, the extraterrestrial visitors became extremely excited. They naturally knew what the Golden Origin Holy Land meant. Only forces that had produced sages were qualified to be called sacred grounds. The flying shuttle slowly came to a stop, and then a middle-aged man walked out from inside. His expression was strangely arrogant. Come to think of it, it was understandable that his eyes grew on his forehead as he came from the forces of the saints. Greetings, sir. The extraterrestrial visitors all bowed in unison, their faces full of smiles. Seeing their expressions, no matter how stupid the people of Xianbei were, they knew that the Golden Origin Holy Land was incomparably powerful. This Metal Essence Fruit Festival would probably be extremely grand, and they would be able to obtain great benefits. The middle-aged man's expression was reserved. Although he was only in the Foundation establishment realm, with his background, even Life Core realm cultivators would be very polite to him. He was very satisfied with the treatment he received, but he deliberately kept a straight face. I'm here under orders to find geniuses and grant them the qualifications to participate in the Metal Essence Fruit Festival. I didn't expect there to be so many geniuses in this declining place. Sir, you don't know, but I'm not from Tianhaixing. I'm from the Flying Rain sect of Danxia planet. I'm from the Nine Chen sect of Setting Sun Star. Everyone introduced themselves one by one, hurriedly disassociating themselves from Tianhaixing. They didn't want to be regarded as natives of a backward place. I see. The middle-aged man nodded. His name was Wan Zipping. After being flattered, he naturally introduced himself. Being called Sir Wan made him feel even better. I don't care so much. I'm under orders to find geniuses. I don't care about their background, as long as they have enough talent. Come on, everyone. As long as you put your hand on the flying shuttle, it will automatically determine if you're qualified to go to the Metal Essence Holy Land. He was a bit of a noisy guest, but the Holy Land and Fruit Festival he had thrown out were knocked unconscious. Even Empress Ma and the eldest prince didn't step forward to stop him. Instead, they first sent people to investigate the situation. After learning about the origin of the Metal Essence Holy Land, they all gasped. Sages? What kind of lofty existence was this? They didn't even need to make a move. With a single thought, they could destroy Tianhaixing. Of course, having a sage before and having a sage now were two different things. Even if the Metal Essence Holy Land no longer had a sage, who could compare to its heritage? The Holy Land definitely had a sage artifact to suppress it. Even venerables would be killed if they went. Everyone lined up obediently. No one dared to speak loudly for fear of being disqualified. Those below the immortal path don't need to join in the fun, Wan Zipping said. He pulled a person out of the line, his face full of disdain. What? The minimum requirement to qualify was the Foundation establishment realm? This was enough to fool 99% of the people present. The extraterrestrial visitors sneered. What kind of place did they think the Metal Essence Holy Land was? Did they think that just anyone could go there? A considerable number of people turned their gazes towards Ling Han. So what if you were a freak? If he didn't reach the Foundation establishment realm, he wouldn't even be qualified to take the test. Ha, he could only watch helplessly as a great opportunity flew away. It must be very uncomfortable. The test was in progress. Those who passed would be enveloped by a ray of light and branded with a mark. This was the qualification to participate in the Metal Essence Fruit Festival. Those who passed were naturally overjoyed, but those who didn't had ugly expressions. Based on the current situation, one had to be a one-star genius to pass. Princess Bai Xiao walked forward and bowed to Wan Zipping. Bai Xiao greets Lord Wan. Wan Zipping's eyes lit up. Such a beauty was really rare. Even in the Metal Essence Holy Land, her appearance alone was enough to make her a saintess. He couldn't help but become gentle. What's the matter? Bai Xiao would like to ask Lord Wan to make an exception, Princess Bai Xiao said. She pointed at Ling Han. This is Ling Han. He's currently in the mystic realm and is invincible among his peers. He's only one step away from the immortal path. 1 year is enough for him to reach the Foundation establishment realm. Do you want me to make an exception for him and grant him the qualification? Wan Zipping asked. Yes. Princess Bai Xiao bowed. Wan Zipping couldn't help but laugh. In such a backward place, there's actually someone who dares to boast that he's invincible among his peers. Rules are rules. Without reaching the Foundation establishment realm, how can he be qualified to go to the Holy Land? Reading on mobile phones is more refreshing. Chapter 3649. BQG6, CC BQG6. CC, that's right. You're merely in the mystery-seeking realm, so what right do you have to stand on equal footing with us? Zhu Yang and the others immediately began to mock and ridicule Ling Han. Those who had been defeated by Ling Han were all one-star geniuses, and they had all passed the test and obtained a spot in the mystery-seeking realm. The contrast was very clear. They had stood out, but Ling Han didn't even have the right to participate in the test. Hee. Princess Bai Xiao wanted to say more, but Wen Zipping waved his hand and refused. Ling Han walked over and said with a smile, "No need to talk nonsense with him. But the Metal Origin Fruit Festival is very important," Princess Bai Xiao said anxiously. "Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. I just asked around. The Metal Origin Sacred Land holds a Metal Origin Fruit Festival every 20 years. Not only will they impart supreme immortal arts, but they will also supply the Sacred Land's treasured immortal fruits. If you can participate in the Metal Origin Fruit Festival, it will save you hundreds of years of cultivation time." Ling Han smiled. "I didn't say I won't go." Princess Bai Xiao was stunned. "You don't even have the right to participate. How can you go?" "Don't worry. I don't have to rely on him to go to the Metal Origin Sacred Land." Ling Han smiled. "All right, don't worry about me. You're like my wife. You're still so talkative." Princess Bai Xiao stomped her feet in anger. Everyone took the test one by one, including the eldest prince and the others. What kind of place was the Sacred Land? However, the eldest prince passed, and so did the seventh prince. The other princes were mercilessly eliminated. In 3 days, head to these coordinates. The Sacred Land will activate a large array to transport all of you there. Wen Zipping announced the coordinates, then sneered. "Those who don't pass the test don't waste time. You don't have any imprints on you. Once the array is activated, you'll be hanged alive. I'll only say it once. If you don't believe me, then you're courting death. I still have to find other geniuses. I'm leaving." Wen Zipping re-entered the flying shuttle. Whoosh, it tore through the air. Ha 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 ha. The foreign guests laughed. They had basically passed the test. Those who could be sent here were naturally geniuses. They looked at Ling Han with ridicule. "So what if you're invincible in the secret realm? Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why don't you continue to be arrogant now?" Ling Han looked at them, and there was only one word in his mind: villains intoxicated by success. Of course, he was going to participate in the Metal Essence Fruit Festival. However, he wasn't going to do it through Wen Zipping. Instead, he was going to do it directly. A year's time was enough for him to step onto the immortal path and directly erupt on a celestial body of the Gold Origin Holy Land. Would the Gold Origin Holy Land not extend an olive branch to such a genius? When the time comes, I'll still beat you until you call me Grandpa. Zhu Yang and the others were all preparing to set off. The first and seventh princes were also preparing to set off. If they could cultivate a saint technique, then even if they didn't become a saint in the future, they would still be able to dream of becoming a venerable or a sect leader. This temptation was too great, and no one could resist it. All of them set off for fear of being delayed by something. If they couldn't make it to the Golden Origin Holy Land, wouldn't that be a great loss? Princess Bai Xiao naturally passed the test and got a place. She and Ling Han returned to the Department of External Affairs and didn't speak along the way. She was still angry at Ling Han for missing such a great opportunity. Ling Han just smiled. Even if he really missed this opportunity, he wouldn't be very sad, because he had even obtained the Mother Gold, which was something that even a saint would be jealous of. Well, there should be heavenly flames on a big planet like the Gold Origin Holy Land, right? He could refine a sovereign weapon. The next day, Princess Bai Xiao set off. Time was limited, so she had to hurry. "Without me, you must be careful," she warned. "The second prince and the third prince are both in the Foundation establishment realm. You are no match for them. You must not fight because of your pride." Okay, I'm not a fool." Ling Han smiled. Princess Bai Xiao gave him some more advice before leaving. A few days later, there was news that Wen Zipping had left Heavenly Sea Star and gone to another planet. He also went to the Primordial Sect, Zhouling Sect, and the other 4 Great Spirit Transformation True Lord forces to distribute some places. Including Hong Tianbu, Several geniuses had already left Heavenly Sea Star and were taken directly to the Gold Origin Holy Land by a large array. Starry sky projection and traveling through space were the means of a saint. Heavenly Sea Star suddenly fell silent. Many geniuses left one by one, causing the newly revived planet to lose a lot of vitality. Ling Han guarded his heart. He cultivated hard every day. On the other hand, he was also looking for elixir recipes on the immortal path. As long as he stepped on the immortal path, he would start refining elixirs to assist in martial art. The path of martial art on Heavenly Sea Star had been cut off. Even now that the world had recovered, most of the information had been destroyed. What Ling Han could find was quite limited. He didn't find elixir recipes, but he did find an ancient book related to alchemy. It introduced immortal medicines. This was quite useful. If one didn't even know how to recognize medicine, how could they refine elixirs? This book introduced the properties of various immortal medicines, their conflicting and compatible attributes, the environment they grew in, and whether they liked the cold or the sun. It was very comprehensive. Ling Han was intoxicated. He was already deducing in his mind which herbs would work with which herbs and what effects they would produce. Of course, he wouldn't forget to cultivate every day when the sun rose. Now, when he cultivated, all the acupoints in his body opened and absorbed the power of heaven and earth together, greatly increasing his cultivation speed. The number of acupoints opened in the enlightenment realm was directly related to a martial artist's future. Even if Ling Han didn't have any special techniques, his cultivation speed was still several times faster than ordinary secret-seeking realm cultivators. Coupled with the Monkey King's technique and supplementary techniques, his cultivation speed could be dozens or even hundreds of times faster than others. Every few days, he would welcome an upgrade in his life level, breaking a few shackles. After 2 months, Ling Han calculated that he still had 78 shackles that he hadn't broken. This result was very shocking. One should know that ordinary secret-seeking realm cultivators could only break 10% of the body's shackles. One could imagine the potential. At most, they could advance to the foundation establishment realm, and then there would be no more power left. Only geniuses could break more than half of the shackles, but reaching 90% could almost be called a flawless body. As for Ling Han, he had already broken more than 99% of the shackles. Looking at the world, probably only a few people could compare to him. However, he naturally wouldn't be satisfied with this. He wanted to pursue absolute perfection. It was just that the fewer shackles left, the slower the upgrade in his life level. Previously, he could break one every 6 to 7 days, but now it would take half a month. Based on this calculation, even though there were only 78 shackles left, it was very likely that he would need to spend 7 to 8 years to break them. This was like raising one's score from 0 to 1, and raising one's score from 99 to 100. The difficulty was incomparable. The further one went, the slower the improvement would be. Ling Han believed that he could definitely break all the shackles in his body, but it would take too long. At this moment, the imperial family released a big piece of news. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3650. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Sither washing pond was about to open. What is the washing pool? This was a great fortune for worldly realm martial artists. It could provide them with an astonishing amount of energy and help them evolve. Every celestial body had a dust washing pond. The difference was that the higher the grade of the celestial body, the better the effect of the dust washing pond. However, the effect of the heavenly sea planet's dust washing pond this time was definitely not weaker than that of the other planets. Why, this was because the great star washing pond only opened once every 10 years to accumulate energy. But how long had the heavenly ocean star's washing pond been accumulating energy this time? Over 2,000 years. 2,000 years can't even compare to 10 years of savings. Of course, not everyone could enter the cleansing pool. First, one had to reach the secret-seeking realm. Otherwise, if the boundless energy surged into the body would not be able to withstand it and would explode. Even if one managed to step into the secret-seeking realm, one would still have to earn the right to enter the secret-seeking realm with one's own strength. After all, The energy in the cleansing pool was limited. Once there were too many people, no one would be able to get much. Chen Fengyang had come into being a long time ago and had been plotting for many years. One only needed to look at why he built the imperial capital here to know that he already had a plan in mind. Hence, a good thing like the cleansing pool was naturally under Chen Fengyang's control. After all, he was the crown prince of this planet, so what did he not know? However, one of the 10 spots had already been allocated to Ling Han. No one was unconvinced. Ling Han's strength was obtained through fighting, and it was publicly acknowledged. Thus, everyone targeted the remaining 9 spots and started a martial arts competition. The competition lasted for 7 days. Just as the top 9 were about to be decided, another shocking news came out. The 4 spirit transformation true monarchs joined hands and asked Chen Fengyang to leave 2 spots for each of them. The washing pool could only hold 10 people. Now that 8 of the 4 true monarchs were gone, there were only 2 left for Xianbei country. Of course, the crowd was not convinced. This was the wealth of Xianbei country. Why should they share it? However, none of them could interrupt. Only perfected Lord Spirit Transformation had the right to make the decision. Ling Han did not know what Chen Fengyang and the others had discussed. In short, the 5 perfected monarchs had reached a consensus to settle the matter with a battle. The most important thing for a martial artist was, of course, strength. It was normal to determine one's rank based on strength. However, the problem was that the people fighting this time were not Chen Fengyang's group, but the secret realm. Chen Fengyang spread the word that if anyone wanted to enter the dust cleansing pool, they just had to defeat Ling Han. Defeating him once would allow 1 person to enter, and defeating him 10 times would allow 10 people to enter. When Ling Han found out about this, he naturally didn't care. He was invincible among his peers, so he could do whatever he wanted. Since Chen Fengyang had laid down the rules, the 4 true sovereigns had no choice but to accept. This was because Chen Fengyang had said that the washing dust pool would only be given to the most outstanding of youths. If they couldn't even defeat Ling Han, it would be a waste to enter. Ling Han was depressed. He was supposed to be invincible in the mystic-seeking realm. Why did it seem like he had become the benchmark of strength? Is there really a secret realm in this world that can defeat him? Not to mention defeat, was there anyone who could fight to a draw? However, he was standing on the opposite side of the 4 perfected cultivators. Moreover, he was Chen Fengyang's official, so he had to stand up for him. Soon, the 4 perfected cultivators each sent 10 young geniuses to the imperial capital. They were all from the secret-seeking realm. Ling Han was a little surprised that there were so many geniuses from the secret-seeking realm. He didn't believe that it was a coincidence that no one had entered the immortal path before WN Zipping arrived. They must have deliberately suppressed their cultivation to wait for the opportunity of the washing dust pool. The 4 powerful cultivators had been locked up on Heavenly Sea Planet for more than 2,000 years. They must have a good understanding of the planet. Let's fight, who's afraid of who? 3 days later, the battle began with countless spectators. Ling Han jumped onto the arena and said, "There's no need to fight one by one. Come on up, I'm in a hurry. After I defeat all of you, I'll go back to eat." Those from the secret-seeking realm were furious. "You're too arrogant, so arrogant." They were all geniuses, so they were the only ones who had the right to ask others to come up together. Ling Han smiled. "Good to be reserved. Then I'll do it." He leapt out and launched an attack on the 40 people. Bang, bang, bang. With just 3 punches, he sent 7 people flying, showing his invincible style. "Ling Han! Ling Han! Ling Han!" The audience shouted. Their emotions were ignited in an instant, and they became crazy. "This kid is a monster. How can he be so strong? Let's work together to fight him." The remaining 30 or so people hurriedly banded together. The people from their own sects stood together, forming 3 small teams and launching a counterattack against Ling Han. However, what was the use of this? Ling Han's strength in the secret-seeking realm had reached the point where he could crush all of his peers. He didn't even need to use his full strength. With 1 punch, someone was bound to be sent flying and lose their ability to fight. The whole process took less than a minute. Besides Ling Han, only 4 people were still standing. They didn't make a move before, not because they were scared, but because they were disdainful. They all crossed their arms, looking extremely arrogant. A bunch of weaklings. They really don't have the right to enjoy the cleansing pool, a man in white said. His eyes were like lightning, and his aura began to surge. Hee, it's good to have fewer people. We can get more benefits. Another young man in blue laughed. He was a little arrogant, but undeniably powerful. I agree, the only woman in red said. She was as beautiful as a peach, and her charm was beyond words. However, she was definitely not a pretty face. But let's get rid of this kid first, the last man in black said, pointing at Ling Han. All right. The 3 men in white nodded. Who's up? The woman in red asked. Me, the man in black said with a smile and strode forward. Bang! With a flash, the black-robed man was gone. In his place was Ling Han, who was standing at the place where he had just been standing. He was sent flying. In the distance, the man in black was hanging on a tree. His limbs were drooping, as if all the bones in his body were broken. Ling Han stretched his muscles, and calmly asked, "What did you guys say?" The woman in red and the other 2 were shocked. This was a freaking monster. He had knocked someone into losing his ability to fight with a single collision. This speed, this physique. He was completely inhuman. You. Ling Han pointed at the man in white. So near, yet worlds apart activated, and he had already crashed into the man. Xiao, the man in white was also sent flying. After flying through the air in an arc, he fell to the ground with a thud. He had already lost consciousness. The woman in red and the young man in blue could not help but take a few steps back. Ling Han's attack could be said to be extremely simple. It was just a collision, and he had taken it head-on with his speed and physique. But sometimes, the simpler the attack, the more difficult it was to deal with. What should they do? The 2 of them hurriedly released their full battle prowess. High-level energy wrapped around their hands, and the acupoints all over their bodies also emitted mystic power, similarly enveloping high-level energy. They did not believe that he would dare to crash into them. Peng, in the next instant, the woman in red was also sent flying. Phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3652. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Cisa. This hunger wasn't fatal, but it lingered and made him feel uncomfortable. Now, a large amount of mystical energy was flowing into the plane of his body, which naturally made Ling Han feel like he could finally eat something. This time, the pond of cleansing had been opened for more than 2,000 years, so how much energy had accumulated? Ling Han didn't bat an eyelid, and silently made a fortune. A day passed, and 7 of Ling Han's plane spaces were filled up. During this time, he also used the power of the pond of cleansing to connect to all the planes in his body. This was a small matter, he only needed to build a bridge, he didn't need to open up a space. However, Ling Han couldn't absorb any more energy. The reason was simple, the pond of cleansing had run out of energy. This was too terrifying, it had only been a day, and the pond of cleansing had run out of energy. The other 9 stood up in confusion. What was going on? Didn't they say they could cultivate here for 3 days? It hadn't even been a day and a half. What's going on? Why can't I absorb any energy? Me too. Same. The faces of the 9 people were filled with confusion. Ling Han also stood up, and joined the ranks of I'm also very confused. They didn't give up and continued to sit in the pond, waiting for the pond of cleansing to shine a second spring. But no matter how long they waited, the pond of cleansing had run out of energy. When 3 days were up, head eunuch Zhu Qi appeared and led everyone out. Everyone hurriedly asked about the situation, but Zhu Qi hadn't entered the pond of cleansing and naturally couldn't answer. He only said he would report to His Majesty. Returning to the External Affairs Department, Ling Han began his final preparations. He was going to leap through the gate of immortality and step onto the path of immortality. Ling Han gave himself 3 days to once again inspect his body. After this step, he would leave the mortal realm, and he wouldn't be able to make up for the deficiencies of the mortal realm. Of course, if he could get a panacea, he would be able to make up for it. But panacea, he 3 days passed, and Ling Han no longer hesitated. He began to break through to the path of immortality. In this world, without the power of the path of immortality, it was difficult to travel. The first step of the immortal path, foundation establishment. However, the reason why the immortal path was so hard to cross was because the first step consisted of 2 steps. The first was to jump through the immortal door, and the second was to build the immortal foundation. Ling Han didn't know how long it would take for him to break through. He didn't know if anyone would find trouble with him during the process, and he didn't know if he would cause any big movements. Therefore, he didn't break through in the Foreign Affairs Office. Instead, he went to a mountain forest. This was still within the scope of the imperial capital, so there was no need to worry about foreign martial artists causing trouble here. Ling Han also chose a very secluded place. He opened up his mind, and all that was left of him was a blank space. Then, he began to push for a great increase in the level of his life. From mortals to immortals, this was a qualitative change. The distance was boundless. Therefore, Ling Han did not feel his cultivation bottleneck loosen. He was not in a hurry. This was very normal. It was not unusual for an ordinary person to be stuck for 8 to 10 years, or even hundreds of years. Although he didn't spend a long time in the mystic-seeking realm, this realm was very special. There were 2 main points: break as many shackles as possible, and accumulate enough mystic power. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have enough power to jump through the immortal door. To Ling Han, the shackles in his body were all broken. His level of life had already reached the peak of the mortal realm. As for the storage of mystic power, it was indeed a weakness in the past. However, after entering the cleansing pool, he had made up for this weakness. Therefore, he was completely qualified to break through to foundation establishment. Ling Han accumulated his understanding and prepared for the explosion that was about to come. Unexpectedly, this moment didn't come. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Ling Han was already feeling hungry. This time, it wasn't that he didn't have enough mystic power. He was really hungry. He endured and didn't destroy the state of mind that he had painstakingly formed. Once it was destroyed, all his previous efforts would be in vain. With his current cultivation level, not drinking water for 10 days and not eating for 20 days was not a problem. 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Boom, Ling Han's body suddenly underwent a drastic change. His life force exploded, and every cell in his body was trembling as if they were about to explode. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Ling Han felt his body shake. It was as if his soul had left his body and flown into the starry sky. In an instant, he had traversed an endless distance. Where was this? He finally stopped. His surroundings were pitch black, and before him was a giant bronze door. The bronze door was hundreds of meters tall. Its entire body was mottled and covered in veins, as if it had experienced countless years. This was a celestial door. Ling Han was shocked. He was definitely in soul form right now, but there really was a place like this in the starry sky where a celestial door existed. He wasn't in a hurry to jump. Instead, he walked closer, wanting to observe this bronze door. However, a force instantly repelled him. It was too strong, and it wasn't something that Ling Han could contend against. He couldn't get close at all. Ling Han focused his eyes, wanting to see clearly. However, no matter how he observed, he couldn't see the veins on the door. It was as if there was a formless force that was blurring his vision. He tried to activate his eye technique, but he was now a ball of spiritual energy, so how could he use it? He looked for a long time before giving up helplessly. Forget it, I'll just directly jump through the celestial door. If others knew about this, they would definitely find it inconceivable. Why are you curious about this? Don't you think you should get down to business? Ling Han used all his strength to jump. He was very special in soul form, and he could jump much higher than usual. Therefore, he effortlessly crossed over the hundreds of meters tall celestial door. Then I'm an immortal now, and I can establish my immortal foundation. This thought hadn't even settled in Ling Han's mind when he felt that power again, dragging him along as he continued to soar through the dark galaxy. After an unknown amount of time, he appeared in a new place. His surroundings were still pitch black, but another door appeared in front of him. After circling for a long time, he returned to the same place. No, not only was this door 1,500 meters tall, it was also silver in color. First it was bronze, then it was silver. Could it be that there was gold behind it? Ling Han thought of what Princess Bai Xiao had said. She had crossed 2 celestial doors, but she didn't say it in detail. If he had known earlier, he would have understood it in detail. Who cares? I'll continue to jump. Ling Han still wanted to carefully observe this celestial door, but there was also a force that prevented him from doing so. Sigh. Ling Han leaped, and this celestial door was also easily crossed by him. However, before his soul could return, it was once again grabbed by a powerful force and roamed through the starry sky. When he stopped and a celestial door of gold appeared in front of him, Ling Han only let out an "oh" and wasn't that surprised. Could it be that the higher one's talent was, the more celestial doors one could cross, and the stronger one's strength would be? However, Ling Han still tried to see if he could get close to it. After discovering that he couldn't, he would leap over. After all, it wouldn't take much time. The celestial door of gold was immeasurably tall, but Ling Han still managed to cross it with difficulty. It's about time for my soul to return, right? But he didn't. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3653. BQG6, CC BQG6. CC. What Ling Han didn't know was that every time he leaped through an immortal gate, a surge of power would be added to his body, making his soul much stronger. After leaping through 3 gates, his telekinesis was at least 100 times stronger. All the trees in the forest rustled as the leaves collided with each other, creating a strange sound. Ling Han, on the other hand, was completely confused. His soul was once again pulled up and sent flying through space. He couldn't help but complain. First it was the bronze gate, then the silver gate, then the gold gate. Would there be purple gates, red gates, and green gates? Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, his soul body stopped. Hey! There was indeed another gate up ahead, but it wasn't tall or grand at all. Instead, it was a broken gate. It was a stone gate, and the top half had been eroded away. It couldn't be more than 6 meters tall, and it looked like a broken wall. It was because Ling Han had a preconceived notion that this was a stone door, but the upper half of it was already gone. Why were the 3 gates in front all in perfect condition, but this one was broken? After the gold gate, shouldn't there be some immortal gold gate or mother gold gate? Stone Gate. Ling Han was filled with curiosity. He walked over, thinking that he would be immediately repelled. However, when he got close, he didn't feel any force pushing him. Since there was no obstruction, Ling Han naturally pressed his hand on the stone door. Instantly, an ancient and desolate aura filled the air, letting him know that this stone door should be extremely ancient. Perhaps it was as ancient as this galaxy, or perhaps it had already existed before this galaxy was formed. But why was it broken? To be able to become the 4th gate, shouldn't it be immortal? Ling Han rubbed it for a while, but there were no patterns on the stone gate. It was simple and ancient, and he couldn't tell what it was. Forget it, I'll just jump through the gate. With a light leap, Ling Han leaped over the stone gate without any difficulty or pressure. However, there was also no change. There was no force to drag him away, nor was there to send him back. He just stood there awkwardly. F***CK, what is this? Ling Han frowned. This wasn't right. Moreover, wasn't the 4th immortal gate a little too easy to jump over? Previously, when he leaped through the golden immortal door, even though he did it in 1 leap, he had used all his strength to barely make it. The stone door had already been destroyed, so its true height should be higher than that. Therefore, his leap did not count. It had nothing to do with him. If you destroy it, that's your problem. Why do I have to bear the responsibility? Ling Han cursed in his heart, but now that he had nowhere to redress his grievances, Ling Han could only think of another way. He walked forward. After a few steps, he walked towards the stone door and was about to push it open. This was an unconscious action, but when he pushed the stone door, a force blocked him. He felt that the stone door was extremely heavy, and he had only pushed it open a little. Ling Han, on the other hand, smiled. There was hope. He pushed with all his might, inch by inch, but he didn't even reach half a foot. The power increased greatly, and peng, his hands were forced back, and the stone door was once again tightly shut. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Ling Han was energized, and he started to push the door again. It was still the same. After pushing it open for less than half a foot, the power increased explosively, wanting to push Ling Han back. Ling Han circulated his full strength and forcefully withstood it. But this power was endless and didn't dissipate. Instead, it resisted him and slowly increased its strength, wanting to push him back. Half an inch. Ling Han slowly retreated. He couldn't help but frown. His psyche power was already so powerful, and he couldn't use it anymore. If only he could use his mystic power. Wait, why not? Could it be because he was a soul body? Let's try. Ling Han made a comeback. With a loud roar, he circulated his power madly. Boom, a miraculous scene appeared. He erupted with even more power. Mystic power could be used. He advanced forcefully, breaking through the half-a-foot distance. But the more he pushed, the stronger the repulsive force became. Very soon, he was pushed back again. Since that was the case, Ling Han used the demon monkey fist and circulated the destructive power. 100 gravitational forces overlapped, forming a frequency attack. After entering the mystery-seeking realm, Ling Han's attainments in the demon monkey fist had naturally improved. Boom, the stone door suddenly opened. Ling Han smiled and strode through. But he immediately discovered that although the stone door was open, there seemed to be an invisible membrane blocking him. It wasn't as sturdy as the stone door, but it was extremely flexible. Moreover, it was pressing down on him from all directions, and he still couldn't pass through. Boom again. But although his fist force was domineering, his head, torso, and legs were all under the force. This caused the force to be extremely uneven, and he fell down hard. Even though he was a soul body, he still felt pain. That repulsive force attacked him from all directions. How could he block it? No. Ling Han's eyes lit up. He was a soul body now. Since he was a soul body, why did he have to stick to the human form? Ling Han laughed loudly. His body suddenly changed shape, and only his head was left. Then, 2 arms grew out of his head, and he rushed toward the stone door while waving his fists. Open. Peng, peng, peng. Ling Han waved his fists rapidly. The destructive power in addition to the demon monkey fist was incomparably domineering, and he forcefully opened up a path. He rushed into the stone door for at least half a jong, but there was still a force blocking him. Now, he could clearly see that there was a layer of light screen on the stone door. It was extremely flexible. Now that he had pushed it half a jong away, the compression force had also reached the extreme, and he was about to be bounced back. If he wanted to pass through the stone door, he would have to break this light screen. Break, 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 Ling Han roared in his heart. His fists waved even faster, and the destructive power blasted out crazily, smashing onto the light screen. This light screen was a little terrifying. The destructive power was so strong, but it actually couldn't do anything. Ling Han didn't care. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to punch. If 1 punch couldn't do it, then 2 punches. If 2 punches couldn't do it, then 10 punches, 100 punches, 1,000 punches. Ka. Many white lines appeared on the light screen, densely covering it like a spider web. This was going to break. But the more it was like this, the greater the resistance created by the light screen. In fact, it even had the tendency to push Ling Han back. Although it was only a sliver, a few white lines immediately disappeared. Obviously, the light screen had been repaired. Ling Han roared, and his fists were like rain. They were so fast that they far surpassed his limit. This was a soul body, and it wasn't restricted by the body. Ka. More and more white lines appeared. Finally, with a bang, the light screen shattered. Ling Han staggered and rushed through the stone door. Done. Ling Han still hadn't come back to his senses when a powerful force began to drag him downwards. It was at this moment that he suddenly saw a figure appear at the position where he had just been. The other party also discovered Ling Han's existence and looked toward him. It was just that the pulling force was too strong, and Ling Han's speed was too fast. The two of them didn't see each other's appearance. Ling Han's heart trembled. Other than him, there was actually someone else who could come to the fourth immortal door. Before he finished his thought, his soul seemed to lose gravity and fell rapidly. Then, in the forest, Ling Han suddenly opened his eyes. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3654. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han opened his eyes, from which shot out two beams of light. Pa, the nearby trees immediately collapsed. This wasn't because he had cultivated some kind of mystical ability, but because after leaping through the celestial gate, his mental power and secret power had improved tremendously. He still couldn't adapt to his current power, so he could collapse the trees with a sweep of his gaze. After leaping through the celestial gate, he still hadn't built his foundation. He was now on the quasi-celestial path. But at this time, Ling Han naturally had no reason to give up halfway. He continued to build his foundation. Confusion flashed through his mind. Why would there be a broken celestial gate? He had never heard of this before. Could it be that it appeared because he had cultivated the mortal realm to perfection? But he also saw another person appear in front of the stone gate. Could it be that there was someone else who had cultivated the mortal realm to perfection? Was this possible? He was able to cultivate the flawless body because his body had nurtured countless planes. Could this kind of good fortune happen to a second person? Let's not think about this first. If he had the chance to meet that person in the future, he would understand clearly. But in this vast sea of people, where would he go to find him? Yes, that person must be an absolute genius. He would just follow this direction. Ling Han began to build his foundation. He didn't use the foundational divine stone. Since he already knew that it was formed from the blood of a great emperor, if he wanted to walk his own emperor's path, he couldn't walk the same path as the other. Besides, he had soaked in the sea of true blood before, and the benefits he obtained were far greater than any foundational divine stone. What foundation should I build? Ling Han buried the belief of invincibility and undefeatable fighting spirit as the foundation of the celestial path. Then, he entwined it with mental power and used secret power to nourish it, continuously strengthening it. He thought of the stone celestial gate and couldn't help but be moved. He deliberately molded it into that shape. Even the material was the same, and it had the rough texture of a stone. That's right, there was also the primordial aura. Clang, just at this time, there was a sudden clap of thunder. Dark clouds rolled, and above the dense forest, flashes of light intersected, as if they could strike down at any time. Ling Han couldn't help but be shocked. He had imitated the stone celestial gate to build the foundation of the celestial path, and had actually angered the heaven and earth. F***ck, what is the background of this stone immortal gate that the heavens and earth actually view it as a taboo? But the more it was so, the more Ling Han insisted on going. If he could build such an immortal foundation, he would be extremely powerful. Come on, so what if the heavens are angry? Let the lightning strike down if you can. Quang, the lightning really did strike down. Just a few jong away from Ling Han, a large tree was instantly split in half and smashed in his direction. With a casual wave of his hand, Ling Han sent the broken tree flying. Trying to scare me. He continued to construct his immortal foundation. Quang, quang, quang. The sound of thunder became even more intense, and even more lightning struck down, but not a single one struck his body. The heavenly lightning tribulation would only slay the great evils, and the great evils. Ling Han was not related to any of them. The heavenly Tao was heartless and treated all living things like straw dogs, so how could it treat him differently now? However, at this moment, a purple lightning bolt suddenly struck down, directly entering Ling Han's sea of consciousness. The purple lightning bolt transformed into a human figure, full of majesty, and shouted, "How dare you? How dare you go against the heavens and earth? You have no respect and no fear. This deity will slay you." Shua, The purple human figure charged over at an incomparably fast speed. Inner demon. Ling Han immediately said in his heart. It was not that this world did not have heavenly tribulations, but they did not destroy a person physically. Instead, they destroyed a person spiritually. Inner demons confused one's mind, causing one to become a demon. The heavenly Tao had a reason to send down lightning tribulation to eliminate them. And Ling Han's inner demon was even more direct. It did not want to confuse him, but to directly destroy his spirit. Without his spirit, his corporeal body was just an empty shell. No matter how powerful his immortal foundation was, what use was it? The inner demon attacked, wanting to break Ling Han's sea of consciousness and destroy his spirit. Ling Han said. Wang, the sound of Buddha was vast and mighty. Crack, a crack instantly appeared on the purple human figure, but only one crack. Ling Han shouted again, like a great bell, causing people to think deeply. Crack, another crack appeared on the purple human figure. Ling Han rushed up and began a fierce battle. Peng, peng, peng. Slaying inner demons naturally relied on soul power. Secret power was useless. Inner demons were very powerful. This was not because Ling Han had formed his immortal foundation and the heaven and earth had sent down the inner demon tribulation, but because the immortal foundation he wanted to build was too extraordinary. The heaven and earth had sent the inner demon ahead of time to prevent him from being so rebellious. But Ling Han had mastered the 6 words Wisdom King mantra, which specialized in punishing evil and restraining inner demons. Even if it was only one word, it was still very effective. 2 more cracks appeared on the inner demon, and its battle strength naturally fell. It was completely suppressed by Ling Han. Hum, 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 hum. Ling Han shouted again and again. The cracks on the inner demon increased, and finally, it shattered with a loud bang. The Buddhist race was indeed specialized in restraining inner demons. Just the hum word mantra was so powerful. If all 6 words were complete, how powerful would it be? Ling Han did not care and continued to build his immortal foundation. Quang, another bolt of purple lightning struck down. It took shape in Ling Han's sea of consciousness and began to bombard him. Ling Han shook his head and continued to shout the 6 words Wisdom King mantra. The inner demon could not pose a threat to him at all. He was multitasking. This time, he only suppressed the inner demon but did not disintegrate it. On the other hand, he sped up the process of building his immortal foundation. Obviously, if he did not stop or complete it, the inner demon would not stop. Fight, fight, fight. Ling Han was calm and confident. One day later, the immortal foundation was formed. The human Tao foundation was only the size of a fist, but it emitted a grand and majestic aura. There was even a sense of desolation, as if this was the foundation of the heaven and earth at the beginning of time, and it could support the heaven and earth. In the sky, the dark clouds dispersed. The heaven and earth could no longer stop him, so the tribulation clouds could only disperse. But the dark clouds did not completely disperse. In the next instant, the dark clouds gathered again. The heavenly tribulation came again. Of course, this was not to stop Ling Han from building his immortal foundation. But if he succeeded, the heaven and earth would send down the tribulation punishment. This was a routine matter. However, in comparison, the strength of this inner demon was too weak. Ling Han only shouted the swastika 10 times in a row, and the inner demon was completely dispelled. Ling Han was just about to stand up when he suddenly felt that all the acupoints in his body had opened. The power of heaven and earth rolled in, greatly increasing his mystic power and mental power. After this step, he had truly stepped out of the mortal realm. Ling Han hurriedly sat down and operated the Monkey King's cultivation method, desperately absorbing the benefits. The secret realms opened by other cultivators would not be very big, and might be filled in a short while. However, Ling Han's secret realm was a bottomless pit. No matter how much power of heaven and earth was stuffed in, he would absorb it all. Unfortunately, it only lasted for half a day. The world returned to peace. What level have my strength reached now? Ling Han touched his chin, very expectant. However, the point now was not to be curious about his strength, but to let the Empress and the others out. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3656. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Cece Ling Han, play with Nyo, who Nyo jumped over, a youthful smile on her face. Ling Han laughed and pulled his young wife into his arms. Wait a few more days, and I'll give you a few kids to play with. Okay. Hu Nyo giggled. Others seized the time to understand this world, but she didn't feel nervous at all. It was as if everything was fine as long as Ling Han was there. No ambition, just doing what she wanted, and adapting to circumstances. After another few days, everyone had the ability to walk freely, and Lin Luo and the others who started cultivating first had already reached the peak stage of the illuminating pulse tier. They only needed to open 100 more meridians, and they would be able to step into the blood transformation tier in perfect form. Ling Han believed that these people were all geniuses. After all, they were accumulated over countless years in the origin world. Although they didn't have an inner world in their bodies and couldn't step into the 7 transformations or 7 bones, it wasn't difficult for them to become 3-star geniuses. Everyone discussed for a while, and Lin Luo and the others said that they would temporarily stay in the imperial capital. This planet had just recovered, and it was a paradise for beginners like them. It wouldn't be too late to go to other large planets after they started cultivating. Ling Shi, Ling Jianshui, and the other children also said that they wanted to train on Heavenly Sea Star first, so they wouldn't accompany Ling Han to the Gold Origin Holy Land. What were they going to do? Ling Han had already prepared enough pills for everyone, and with the accumulation from selling pills, he was extraordinarily rich, so it wasn't a problem to provide for these people. Moreover, with the recovery of the world, there were more and more treasured fruits of life. At least for those below the celestial path, they weren't that precious, and could be bought as long as they could afford it. After solving this biggest problem, Ling Han decided to set off for the Gold Origin Holy Land. This time, he planned to bring the Empress, Hu Nyo, the large black dog, and Wall. After all, it was only for the Gold Origin Fruit Festival, and he wouldn't stay there for too long. The large black dog came by himself, and Wall's calculation ability was highly valued by Ling Han. He accompanied the 2 girls, the large black dog, and Wall to the Department of External Affairs. The large black dog opened its mouth, and wanted to say something. However, all that came out was a series of woof, woof, woof. In this world, it was just an ordinary dog. How could it speak? At the very least, it had to reach the blood transformation realm and consume a transformation fruit. Only then would it be able to speak and even take human form. Although so many days had passed, the large black dog was still not used to this. It continuously barked, yet was unable to say anything. It was so anxious that it felt extremely uncomfortable. Ling Han naturally understood it very well. He smiled and said, "Are you trying to say that I'm doing well now?" The large black dog hurriedly nodded. There was no need for him to awaken his intelligence again. However, he was too weak now, so he couldn't even speak. However, he could not speak, nor could he stop it. The large black dog still raised a foot, as if giving Ling Han a thumbs up. Ling Han had a strange expression on his face as he said, "I say, didn't your iron underwear shatter after coming out of the inner world? What's with this one now?" The large black dog was now wearing a pair of purple cloth underwear. As he walked, he twisted his buttocks, which was a sight to behold. Woof, 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 woof. The large black dog barked continuously as if he was complaining. Ling Han could somewhat understand. It should be because his current physique couldn't wear iron underwear, so he could only wear cloth underwear. He was a dog that knew shame. As for where this pair of underwear came from, Ling Han didn't want to know. He always felt that the inside story was too dirty. "Yi, Ling Han, you're finally back." Shenyuan Dinghua walked out. He glanced at the Empress and Hu Nyo, revealing a look of amazement. Thankfully, the 2 girls had their faces covered, and he could only see their figures. Otherwise, he wouldn't be amazed, but stunned. Then, he saw the large black dog, and couldn't help but drool. "Where did you get this mongrel? It's so fat, we'll eat dog meat tonight." The large black dog was furious. How dare he talk about eating dog meat in front of Grandpa Dog? Eat grandpa dog. He darted out, opening his mouth to bite. If I can't bite you to death, you bastard. Let go, Shen Yuan Dingwa shouted. With his strength, he naturally wouldn't be bitten by the large black dog, but to have his trousers dragged by a dog was still embarrassing enough. Ling Han laughed loudly. Did anything happen these few days? Nothing, but there are some rumors saying that you don't have the right to participate in the Metal Element Fruit Festival, that you don't live up to your name, and don't deserve the title of prodigy of the imperial capital, Shen Yuan Dingwa said. Ling Han smiled faintly. He didn't care about this kind of empty reputation. Moreover, he wasn't a prodigy of the imperial capital, but the most prodigy of the galaxy, okay? Shen Yuan Dingwa moved closer, and asked in a low voice, these two are? His eyes drifted to the Empress and Hu Niu. Your sister-in-law, Ling Han said. Pei, sister-in-law, Shen Yuan Dingwa immediately said, and then shamelessly greeted the two girls. That brat Ling Han really knows how to hide, only letting me meet sisters-in-law now, practically treating me like an outsider. Yes, sister-in-law, the Empress said proudly. In her heart, she was the most important person in the world, and Ling Han didn't count, he was her husband. Shen Yuan Dingwa couldn't help but be startled, thinking, why is this girl so tsunder? Although the Empress's appearance wasn't obvious, her aura was astonishing, and completely suppressed him. Father. At this time, the 7 milk babies also ran over, and the little girl followed behind, looking very lazy. The fat pig was in her arms. Handsome pot, where did you kidnap these two beauties? Tang Yuna looked at the Empress and Hu Niu, a little surprised. Although the two girls' appearance wasn't obvious, their figures were too perfect, and they were also very attractive. She believed that they were definitely great beauties, almost catching up to her. Regarding her appearance, the little girl never knew how to be modest. Pa, she threw the fat pig on the ground and pounced at the Empress. They were too beautiful, and she really wanted to hug them. The fat pig fell on the ground and instantly screamed. Although it wasn't injured, it was still very painful, bastard. However, Tang Yuna also pounced on empty air. Ling Han picked up the Empress in time, and didn't let the little girl succeed. The large black dog immediately dashed out and pressed a paw on the fat pig's body, barking at Ling Han. The meaning was too simple: eat roast suckling pig tonight, and have a sumptuous meal. On the other side, Hu Niu was also drooling. Roast suckling pig, roast suckling pig, roast suckling pig. When the 7 milk babies heard this, they instantly felt close to Hu Niu. They were kindred spirits. Roast suckling pig, roast suckling pig. They also called out, their little eyes shining. The fat pig had a deep grudge, and all of you have a grudge against pigs. Why do all of you want to eat roast suckling pig when you see it? Did the pig provoke you? Gu. It barked at the large black dog. It was all this despicable dog's fault for provoking it. Woof, woof, woof. The large black dog naturally wasn't to be outdone. He was never one that was willing to suffer losses, and this lecherous pig didn't look like a good person at first glance, so he was definitely cursing at him. Gu, gu, gu. Woof, woof, woof. Alright, a pig and a dog were facing each other, both barking at each other. Although they didn't understand each other's language, they definitely couldn't lose their momentum, bastard. Cell phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 3657. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. Everyone found it interesting. Whether it was the fat pig or the large black dog, they had clearly developed intelligence. However, due to various reasons, they were unable to open their mouths. They could only bark at each other, while the dog barked at the pig. All right, I won't eat roast suckling pig, nor will I eat dog meat. I'll just make something else to eat, Ling Han said with a smile. They sat down first, and then Ling Han started to make arrangements. He was going to leave Heavenly Sea Star for at least half a year, so he had to arrange everything properly. Unlike before, when Princess Bai Xiao was in charge for him. Thinking of this, Ling Han felt that this demon princess was quite useful. You're leaving again? Shen Yuan Dingwa was shocked. This overseer was far too incompetent. The External Affairs Department had only been established for a short period of time, but he was already gone more than 90% of the time. Ling Han nodded. From now on, you'll be in charge of the Foreign Affairs Department. Can I protect him? Shenyuan Dinghua didn't seem very confident. It doesn't matter. Now that the ownership of the major forces has been decided, our External Affairs Department actually has nothing to do. Moreover, before I leave, I will do one thing to ensure that no one dares to provoke the External Affairs Department in the future. Ling Han smiled. What do you want? Shenyuan Dinghua suddenly had an ominous feeling. Ling Han smiled and said, killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Later, I will go and beat up the second prince and the third prince. Don't mess around. Shenyuan Dinghua panicked. TSK, it's just the son of a spirit transformation realm cultivator. So what if I beat him up? Tang Yun-er licked the candy with an indifferent expression. On the side, Hunyu's saliva flowed freely as she stared fixedly at the milk candy in her hand, not the slightest bit reserved. Shenyuan Dinghua sucked in a breath of cold air. Why was this group of people so ferocious? If spirit transformation perfected cultivator wasn't a big deal, then what else was? Don't worry, don't worry. Nothing will happen, said Ling Han. How could Shenyuan Dinghua be at ease? However, he couldn't dissuade Ling Han, so there was nothing he could do. Ling Han invited Yin Xiujing, Lian Shuarong, and the others to have a meal together. This was a farewell banquet. Seeing the Empress and Hunyo, even if Yin Xiujing and Lian Shuarong prided themselves on being extremely beautiful, they still felt a sense of inferiority. This was still because the two girls were wearing veils. If they really showed their true faces, who knew what kind of commotion it would cause? Therefore, Ling Han's current strength was still very weak, so he could only ask the two girls to keep a low profile. After eating, Ling Han left the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and went straight to the second prince's residence. The Empress, Hunyo, the large black dog, the little lowly, and the milk babies all followed. All of them loved to join in on the fun, so how could they possibly miss it? Therefore, this group was also very strange. There were beauties, little boys, dogs, and pigs. Along the way, everyone was dumbfounded. What were the elites of the imperial capital planning to do? Not long after, Ling Han arrived in front of the second prince's residence. As a dignified prince, he naturally lived in a grand mansion that occupied a large area and was resplendent in gold and jade. There were also 8 large men standing guard at the door, looking very fierce. A large man pulled out the saber at his waist and shouted loudly at Ling Han, "Hey, stop." Ling Han flicked his finger. Xiao, a finger strike shot out, and the large man was instantly sent flying. Peng, the door was forcibly smashed open. "How dare you?" The remaining 7 large men all pulled out their sabers, surrounding Ling Han and the others. "You actually dare to behave atrociously in the second prince's residence? Are you tired of living? Who are you? State your name." The 7 called out one after another. Some sent out a signal to summon help. This person could send one person flying with a single finger. This strength was too domineering, and even if the 7 of them joined forces, they should still be no match. They didn't even recognize themselves. Ling Han laughed in spite of himself. These people were too ignorant and ill-informed. Woof, woof, woof. The large black dog barked, clutching its belly, laughing so hard that it lay down. What it meant was, "Little Han, didn't you boast that you were doing very well? Look, even the guards don't know who you are, and you still have the nerve." Ling Han didn't make a move. With a thought, those 7 large men seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand, and they kept waving their limbs in midair, all of them looking terrified. Had they seen a ghost? Of course not. Ling Han's current mental strength was who knew how many times stronger, and he could easily lift a rock that weighed 200,000 or 300,000 kilograms, let alone 7 people. He strode into the residence, and with a wave of mental strength, the 7 large men were all thrown out by him, and they all fainted. This time, he had come to beat up the second prince. As for the others, he didn't take them seriously. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Amidst the chaos, groups of soldiers appeared and surrounded Ling Han and the others. "Humph, Ling Han, how dare you? You even dare to barge into my residence. Do you really think that just because Imperial Father favors you, you can do whatever you want? The second Imperial Prince also appeared, his face livid. He was a dignified prince, but someone had actually barged into his residence. How humiliating was that? Ling Han smiled faintly and nodded. That's right. That's right. The second prince was instantly stunned. Had this brat become stupid? No matter how much Ling Han was favored, he was still an official. How could he ride over his master's head? Disgraceful. Disgraceful, he said in a sinister voice, his killing intent obvious. This was Ling Han who had delivered himself to his doorstep. Even if he killed him, Chen Fengyang wouldn't be able to say anything. Ling Han smiled and said, "You princes, relying on the backing behind you, have targeted me time and time again. Do you think I have no temper? So what if you have a temper?" The second prince attacked, charging towards Ling Han. "You're a servant, and we're masters. You're just a mortal, but we're immortals. In our eyes, you're just an ant." With one step, he had already reached out to grab Ling Han's head. Smack! Ling Han moved and slapped him across the face. The sound was crisp and clear. Instantly, the second prince was sent flying back at a speed even faster than his momentum. Bang! The wall behind him couldn't stop his momentum at all, and a hole was instantly blasted open. He continued flying. Bang! 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 Peng! 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 He broke through 9 walls in one go before he stopped and lay on the ground. The second prince struggled to get up, his face full of shock. You've broken through to the celestial path. This was the only possibility. Otherwise, no matter how powerful a secret-seeking realm was, in front of a Foundation establishment cultivator, it would be trash. Ling Han stood there lazily, yet his mental power had already taken form. He grabbed the second Imperial Prince and tossed him in his direction. In terms of absolute power, telekinesis could never compete with mystical power. Even if Ling Han's telekinesis was stronger than the average Foundation establishment cultivators, it was at most 500,000 kilograms, which was inferior to his mystical power when he was in the illuminating pulse realm. The strength of telekinesis lay in its formlessness and lack of speed restrictions. If it was used as brute force, it was simply a waste. However, the second prince was now heavily injured and couldn't resist at all. Telekinesis was enough to deal with him. Moreover, this was very pretentious, wasn't it? Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3658. A Good Romance. BQG 6. See thither hundreds of soldiers all stared with their eyes wide open. Their second Imperial Prince was picked up from the ground out of thin air, and then tossed towards Ling Han. It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling the second Imperial Prince. Because of their ignorance, they all knelt down, thinking that a god had appeared. The big black dog looked around. This was the feeling he wanted, and he barked excitedly. When the second prince was about to hit Ling Han, his body strangely stopped and floated in midair. His limbs drooped, and he glared at Ling Han. "You dare to hit me, you dare to hit me, Pa!" Ling Han slapped his ear again, and it landed on the second prince's face. However, he didn't use too much force this time. If he did it again, the second prince would probably die, and Chen Fengyang definitely wouldn't be able to sit still. Now, the uncle was teaching his grandson a lesson. What could Chen Fengyang say? "I hit you. Are you not happy?" Ling Han said with a smile. "Don't be arrogant." The second prince gritted his teeth. "Even if you've entered the celestial path, this is still the imperial capital. The means that father left behind can completely control you." "Oh." Ling Han nodded, and asked, "Don't you think it's strange that I've already started fighting? Why didn't anyone come to stop me?" "Yes." The second prince was a bit confused. Previously, when they attacked Ling Han, didn't the formation spirit immediately appear? Now, it went to eat and go to the toilet. "Because I represent justice," Ling Han said with a serious expression. Woof, woof, woof. The big black dog was the first to burst out laughing. Ling Han represented justice? This black-bellied man, it was hilarious. "Justice is invincible," Ling Han said again, extremely serious. The second prince was stunned at first, and then almost exploded in anger. Are you kidding me? Justice is invincible. Invincible, my ass. If justice was really invincible, then who would still cultivate? But it was really strange. Where was the formation spirit? Why hadn't it reacted? Who was Chen Fengyan's real son? Ling Han laughed heartily as he continued to ravage the second imperial prince. Only when the second imperial prince was almost killed did he stop. He patted the second prince's shoulder and said with a smile, "Remember this lesson. In the future, you must be honest and do your duty. Otherwise, this righteous uncle will still appear and teach you a good lesson." The second prince's face was swollen and bruised, and he could no longer speak. He only had one question in his mind: was he really Chen Fengyan's biological son? You can't do this to your son. Ling Han left the second prince's residence and headed towards the third prince's residence. The news of him breaking into the second prince's residence and fighting with him spread even faster than him. No one believed it. Firstly, Ling Han did not have the guts to do so. Secondly, he did not have the strength to do so. Thirdly, even if he had the guts and strength, would Chen Fengyan not stop him? What a joke. Who would believe that? Therefore, when Ling Han arrived at the third prince's residence, it was completely unguarded. Ling Han naturally did not hold back. He charged in and forced the third prince out. You. When the third prince saw Ling Han, his face was filled with shock. He could not believe that Ling Han had actually dared to charge into his residence. Ling Han smiled. "Third brother, are you surprised? Are you surprised?" "What a surprise," the third prince said in a low voice. When he saw Ling Han, he knew that the rumors were true. Ling Han was truly audacious. He attacked immediately. Boom! The aura of the immortal path erupted, and he leaped towards Ling Han. His entire body glowed, and he looked like a celestial being. However, in the face of absolute power, what use was that? Bang! Ling Han only punched once, and the third prince was sent flying. He did not even have the strength to fight back. Is my current battle prowess comparable to a Paramount Foundation establishment cultivator? Ling Han rubbed his chin. His accumulation in the mortal realm was too deep. Moreover, the foundation he had built was an imitation of the stone celestial door. Even the heavens and earth could not tolerate it. He had built a human foundation, but it definitely surpassed a heaven foundation. It was even comparable to a Paramount Tao foundation. After beating up the third prince, Ling Han went to the fourth prince's residence. Immediately, the rumor spread again that the third prince had also been beaten up by Ling Han. Following that, the fourth prince was also beaten up badly. When this news also spread, no one thought that it was fake anymore. Where did so many rumors come from? Was Ling Han really going to defy the heavens? The fifth prince, sixth prince, eighth prince, and the others could not escape the fate of being beaten up. It could be said that the top-ranked princes had all fallen. Only the eldest prince and the seventh prince were spared. After all, they were no longer on this celestial body. This made Ling Han feel a little regretful, but it did not matter. He would soon go to the Golden Origin Holy Land. It would not be too late to beat them up then. After suffering so many losses, of course, the princes would not give up. They all asked to see Chen Fengyan, but they did not know where Chen Fengyan was in seclusion. How could they complain about this injustice? They could only beg Empress Ma and the others. Even though these concubines could only see Chen Fengyan once in a while, they could not find him. This matter caused a huge uproar in the imperial court. The old officials were all filled with righteous indignation. They thought that Ling Han had actually dared to beat a prince. Did he still have any regard for the country's laws? All of them petitioned for Ling Han to be severely punished. This formed a unified opinion in the imperial court, but the problem was, who could deal with Ling Han? This person was originally a genius of the imperial capital. Now that he had entered the Foundation Establishment realm, not only was he invincible in the mortal Foundation Establishment realm, but it seemed that even the Heaven Foundation Establishment realm could not deal with him. The problem was, where did the imperial capital find an expert who had reached the Paramount Tao realm? Those sects. In terms of deterrence, perhaps the reputation of Ling Han and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was more effective. Thus, as long as Chen Fengyang did not say anything, who could do anything to Ling Han? You're awesome. Shenyuan Dingguo was completely convinced. Ling Han should be the first person to be able to sit still after beating up a prince. Moreover, he did not just beat up one prince, but a whole bunch of them. In this way, who would dare to provoke the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Ling Han only smiled. He patted Shenyuan Dingguo's shoulder. Work hard on your cultivation, young man. I hope that when I return, you will have broken through to the immortal path. Definitely. Shenyuan Dingguo nodded vigorously. The trivial matters here were basically settled, and Ling Han decided to set off for the Golden Origin Holy Land. As usual, the little girl took out a flying shuttle. She and Ling Han sat on it, while the others, dogs, pigs, and so on, entered the Qi cultivation gourd. Set off. Xiao, the flying shuttle pierced through the air and quickly entered the dark universe. After entering the Foundation establishment realm, Ling Han had the ability to fly on artifacts. However, to fly on artifacts, he needed to integrate a portion of his divine sense into the artifact. However, Ling Han still wanted to forge the source gold in the Golden Origin Holy Land and use the chaotic extreme lightning as a weapon in the future. Wouldn't it be a waste to divide a portion of his divine sense into the artifact now? Thus, he temporarily suppressed the idea of flying on artifacts and decided to forge the source gold first. The little girl started to look for spatial nodes according to the star chart so that she could travel through space. Otherwise, who knew how long it would take to fly from here to the Golden Origin Holy Land? Reading on a mobile phone was more refreshing. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.